you're a rough stone and you just got to continually work on yourself.
Yes.
And maybe using these metaphysical symbols, these tools to apply to yourself.
Yes. I mean, that's one of the biggest teachings you get out of the fraternity. It's not you're taking these tools, actual physical tools, and applying that, right? It's think about what it's saying. Really deep dive into it. Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
And apply it to your life.
Welcome to the symbolic lodge of conversation, where consciousness and curiosity interweave into discussion. This is All Square Podcast. I'm your host, R.L. Franks, and today's guest sitting next to me, he's been my friend for over 13 years. A special occasion was that I actually had the privilege of helping him on his journey into Freemasonry. He knew me when I was an entered apprentice, just making my first steps. And in return, a little bit of time later, I saw him take his steps and become a great master of my home lodge, Rubicon Lodge number 237. This is the story of Worshipful Master, my brother, Richard Connor Irving. Connor, so glad to have you with me today.
Oh, this is wonderful, brother. I'm so glad to be here finally.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the support. I've seen you really develop with character, charisma, leadership in the fraternity.
Yeah.
I knew you before when we were hanging out at a hookah bar.
Can you believe that?
Early
hookah bar.
Yeah. I was 22, you were 21.
Yep.
I'm figuring out what this fraternity that I just went on was about. Tell me. You've had almost 10 years of experience in our fraternity. What would you say to the younger men who are looking to knock on the door and take their first steps?
Well, if you are a young man, such as I was 10 years ago that knocked on the door, just know that the people behind that door will 100% have your back, even if you don't know them. Like, there will be things that you have no idea what's going on. Like me personally, I went into it not really knowing anybody because my dear friend here's obligations to work kept him away, and I just had to trust my gut at that time because I trusted him and believed what he was telling me. And, in conclusion, I was just floored by the experience. And
how would you describe that experience though? Like if you could name that going into that, the night when you joined the fraternity, what would you describe it as?
Like a scene from a movie.
How so?
The suspense on what's going to happen next.
Okay.
Going in, you get introduced to a couple of people before, the whole degree ritual starts, and then it's showtime. And you're sitting there like, I'm this really young guy, and majority of everybody else was probably 30, 40 years older than me. And, I didn't know them at all from Adam. And I had to put my trust and faith in them. And also, at the same time, by the way, put on this blindfold. You're going to be hoodwinked for majority of the degree.
Let's talk about senses. You have to really trust. As you mentioned, I couldn't be there the night of your installation due to work commitment. But you're trusting a room full of strangers to you.
They are strangers. They are definitely strangers. At the time.
Sure.
Because at that time, you were still a Mr. Irving at that time, before you become a brother.
Yeah.
So being Mr. Irving to them and to yourself, because you didn't know what was going to happen next. You didn't know you were going to be brother that night. I had no idea, right? No clue. It was just like, I knew in my heart and in my gut that this was the right thing to do
Especially after the fact.
after the fact.
Yeah.
And even like during it, I'm like, this is really cool.
Yeah. Is it moving because of the symbolisms and like taking those same steps?
The same steps as people 300 years from me have taken.
Yeah.
Presidents. Let's not forget, there were a few presidents that were Freemasons. You know, you were the guy that, explained, gave me the crash course, Freemasonry for Dummies, Manly P. Hall, you know. You were the crash course and like getting me kind of in the mindset of what it might be.
Yeah.
And like I had a idea because I liked history growing up. It was one of my stronger suits and, something I bonded with my grandfather with quite a bit. So, and it came across.
You had no background into Freemasonry before you joined, correct?
The only background I had was my great grandfather.
Yeah.
So lineage wise, right? That was 3 generations prior to me. So in a sense, I didn't know him. I heard he was one great individual.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. But he was from the Canton area. So I need to take a trip out there, side note. But that's the only, I guess, exposure in my life with Freemasonry. Nobody else that I'm aware of that I've been in 10 years. You can tell me if you are, now. But so it was literally just me.
Sure. And just for some more context of our friendship, this man has seen me through all different stages in life. I mean, we lived together for a few years. We survived a pandemic. Yeah, the pandemic together over that time. And with that, another thing that you and I were both fascinated on, even while we were in the fraternity and even when I first started and you were still considering being a Mason, was conspiracy theories. I mean, what's one of the wildest conspiracy theories that you heard before you were on the inside of the fraternity?
Satanic cult. I mean, the biggest one.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
people fear what they don't know and they assume the worst, I guess. They assume, well, if I don't know what you guys are doing, then you guys must be up to malintent.
Why do you think that is in our society that we always drift to the negative?
Because why can't I know? It's more of you're not going to tell me, so it must not be good. And like society nowadays, if you keep secrets from somebody, they're like, why are you keeping a secret from me? Well, what's the point? Now I'm wondering and worried about why I can't know. Why am I being excluded from the conversation?
It's a very individualistic attitude that I think has really developed, especially over the last couple decades.
Yes.
Right? Where's the sense of community?
It's like you have to build it yourself, like in society, right? I like to tend to think I do the best I can for people.
We're not perfect.
No, not in the slightest. I'll never deem myself perfect. I'll make mistakes till the day I die. So it happens.
So we were imperfect coming in. We're not perfect still.
No.
Even with all these teachings and lessons that we're applying. Would you liken it to you're a rough stone and you just got to continually work on yourself?
Yes.
And maybe using these metaphysical symbols, these tools to apply to yourself?
Yes. I mean, that's one of the biggest teachings you get out of the fraternity. It's not you're taking these tools, actual physical tools, and applying that, right? It's think about what it's saying. Really deep dive into it. Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
And apply it to your life. Making yourself more perfect.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
The 24-inch gauge and common gavel's one of the symbols that stands out as well. It's divide yourself into 3 different parts, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Symbols always has conveyed a meaning. Some people wear crosses because of their faith.
Yeah.
We have the square and compass, not because it's a religious thing, but because
by the way, it's not.
Right. But it's more of like a it's our symbol that we use to apply to ourselves. You know, what's a symbol in life that you kind of reflect on that really brings meaning? Because symbols convey a deeper meaning that sometimes words just can't capture on paper. So
people love symbols.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's a symbol that you have really reflected on? Has there been one in your life?
I mean, there's, you could probably put them on 2 different pages of symbols that I like,
it's, because there's so many. There's stuff about character building, time.
Yes.
Right?
The hourglass always stands out to me because,
okay.
The hourglass represents your life, and the sands of time that wither down to the bottom of the hourglass from the top.
Absolutely. That hourglass and just the meaning that it's had impact over centuries in movies.
Yes.
Only so much time left.
You only have so much time left. And if you're wondering what you want to do or who you are as a person, just know that all of us on planet Earth do have a limited amount of time. It doesn't mean you have to know. You don't have to be perfect on your attempt to find yourself, but at least make an conscientious effort to, if you have regrets in life, fulfill it a little bit more, in a sense, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It really is, in a way, when you take those steps through Freemasonry, it's like a rebirth. In a way, you're taking new steps.
It is. And like, for me, it definitely was a rebirth. It was a reset, I would say, on troubled life that I had, or no sense of direction at the time, because, I had really no clue what I wanted to do 15 years ago.
Right. You're 21?
21. You have the pressure of family saying you need to just do this, or this. And,
those being what, though? When you say that, like, get a job, go to college?
It was definitely college. My father was a physicist. Well, is. He's a doctorate in physics. My mom was a neonatal nurse, now retired. So, they worked hard to get to where they were. And, they enjoy the fruits of their labor. And my dad still works probably 70 hours a week. And I tell him to slow down because he has to. He's getting older. But anyway, it was more of a sense of, we did this, now you do this. And like, we want you to succeed. And it was a strict way of saying, I want you to do well, and I want you to find something now to do well.
But with it, that was their avenue.
Then that's where I'm getting to. It's their avenue. It wasn't my avenue at the sense, because I'm like, what do I do well in? I could do a lot of different things, but where do I want to land?
Right.
Right. It's like, I could do math. That's fine. I like history, but where's that going to get me? I didn't really feel comfortable teaching at that time. I probably could now. I don't think I'd have an issue with it now. But back then, I'm talking 12, 13 years ago.
Sure.
Back then, I wasn't comfortable with that at that time, because my self-esteem wasn't 100%.
Do you think you found yourself in Masonry?
100%.
Well, let's talk about it.
100%. And it's more finding myself through osmosis of others. So, seeing how successful other brethren might be in life, And not just that, but you're surrounding yourself with these guys. And the more you surround yourself with successful people, you'll want to be successful.
Mhm.
And they want you to be a better man.
Now, some people would hear that and they'll say, well, Masonry, we always hear, is a cult.
Yeah.
But when you were finding yourself, somebody would probably make the argument watching, did you find yourself or did you become what Masons wanted you to become? So, like, you're taking on the narrative of the cult of Masonry. Did you find yourself individually? Was it an individual journey or did you just have, because some people would make the argument that, oh, you just conform to what Masonry is and you're just a puppet for Masonry.
No. You make Masonry what you want it to be. It's nobody's telling you to do anything. Nobody's saying you have to act this way. I mean, there's obviously tenets that we live up to. I mean, you got to be a good person. Yes. I mean, that just goes without saying.
Yeah.
But nobody's telling you to be an officer. Nobody's telling you to, you know, live like I would have lived, or that's not it. People are wanting you to be you in your own way, but they want you to do well in your life. And that's the difference. It's not a cult, because if it was a cult, I would devote all of my time to the cult.
Right.
Where my family, my my job or whatever wouldn't matter, because they want me to focus all of my time there in this cult and not worry about anything else in my life, because I've made an oath to a cult, where we don't do that as a fraternity.
Right.
You must always look out for your family, your work, and yourself first.
Absolutely.
And that's the complete difference between a cult and what Freemasonry is.
Well said.
100%. Yeah, I think that's what people need to understand, is why we're not a cult.
Yeah. One thing that Michael and I's permission is, or passion project is to be able to articulate what Freemasonry is in today's society. Do you believe that there are lessons that society needs and could benefit from Masonry? And if so, what are they?
Lessons, I would say it's more of
Maybe mentorship,
a mentorship.
chivalry.
There is chivalry. Oh, absolutely. Because there are plenty of brethren out there that I've met that are chivalrous. And they're not asking you, again, they're not asking you to be like them. It's learning from osmosis and seeing other guys that care about you first. And the way they act is more of a chivalrous, respectful guy. And the fact that they care about you is like, I kind of want to be just like that.
Yeah.
Or I want to be chivalrous. I want to help my fellow man, Mason or not. And that's one of the things I think that gets lost in society now is, chivalry's not really there. There's some people there that I've known personally that are Masons, that are great people, salt of the earth people. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, it is getting lost in society. And, I hope that one day we can return to a more chivalrous, honorable society, in a sense, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
I would long for that, for everyone to feel that way, because it's rewarding, not just for you, the other person.
Yeah. Almost 10 years. You've been a Mason for almost 10 years.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. What do you think? Not every day in Masonry is pleasant. Sometimes you gotta pick up the heavier load, and you got to be there for not only brethrens but yourself. I mean, can you resonate with a time in your life where you had to really take control and be a leader in the fraternity? You were an officer. You were head of the lodge.
Yeah, you know, especially, well, being Worshipful Master, in a time.
What do you mean when you say time? For those of you who don't know.
So I was Worshipful Master in 2021, started in 2020. As all of us know, there was a pandemic.
Yep.
COVID-19 ran rapid through our country. So our lodge at that time was kind of homeless. We weren't allowed to meet in a regular.
How so was it homeless, for just so they can understand?
So because where our home lodge where we meet was closed due to being in a
Senior living community.
thank you, senior
Not a
living community. We weren't allowed to meet there just to be safe and not make the residents there ill.
Of course.
So by law, we had to move somewhere else. And shout out to Toledo Ford Industry Lodge and Damascus Collingwood for allowing us at that time to use their lodge for a whole year. I'll always be thankful for that because we had no place to go at the time. But I just want them to know that, I truly do appreciate them doing that for the lodge. But at that time, I had to lead in a different way that, I didn't expect to.
Right.
And maybe didn't want to.
Oh, yeah. You had a
it's
year planned.
Yeah, I did. I had a whole comedy night charity event
Yep.
with guys that I knew that I really wanted to do. And a battle of the bands and like all sorts of different stuff in my mind that I was like, this could work because I have connections with people that would be interested in something like that. But long story short, we're not going to ramble on too much. That happened, right?
Yeah. We were literally nomads, and
we were
in a senior living community where we were like, you guys can't meet here. Where are we going to meet? And another lodge actually allowed us to meet. They met on the off nights we met, and we were there for over a year.
I would say,
into my year, where then during year 2 of the pandemic, I was able to move us a little closer to Waterville to Phoenix when it was time, and then we eventually got back home to the community. So yeah, I mean, those struggles, virtual lodge meetings.
I had to be the guy to do the virtual meetings.
Installed
on a computer. Was it something I dreamed about? No. But when I look back on it, it's been 4 years now. Almost 4 years. I know it's been 4 years. Yeah. Wow. Crazy. Looking back on it, it was a unique time in our history that I had to get us through. And I do appreciate it in a different way. Was it something I envisioned? No. But I did get us out of a dark age in our history. It's kind of important.
Absolutely. I would describe it as, it wasn't the leadership route you wanted to take, but it was leadership that the lodge needed. They needed to take at that time.
They needed it. And I knew I had to step up, and like, I wasn't going to give up. I'm not like that.
I know you're not.
Not like that, man. I went through the line for 6 years. I skipped a chair. But 6 years, I worked hard for that every year. Did everything I needed to do. And for that to happen, life happens. It does. But I will always remember that and be grateful for, the time where I had to step up and get us through a dark time. So
Yeah.
there's always a light in the darkness, I could say, you know. So I don't really regret it
No.
at all.
Do you think you've really been going on this directional path where times were on that journey before Masonry, you felt a little lost? You've also even said to me, and I've never really taken the time to actually dig deeper, but you said Masonry saved you
Yes.
years later, especially during the pandemic where you and I, all we could really do was jump in the car, go to a local coffee shop, and we drove around at night looking at
Drove
the city.
around, just
Yeah.
driving around, listening to um
Coast to Coast AM.
Coast to Coast AM and also
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits.
Yeah. Just
So
other crazy music. Yeah, FKJ.
FKJ, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
FKJ. But those were good times.
Yeah.
But
You said Masonry saved you. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to know what that meant. Was that spiritually? Was that mentally? Was that physically? What does that mean to you when you say Masonry saved you?
I mean, you could just, add all three together, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Um, I would honestly say mentally was huge, because when you're mentally saved, then everything else aligns. Physically, now you're motivated, right? You're motivated to.
Were there any practices that you took or approaches that really helped you develop that? Like just mental health is so important in today's
It's
society.
100% important.
Or is it just being able to sit with somebody and talk to them? Roll those ideas, what you're dealing with, guys of all different generations.
You should always have an outlet, I feel like. Always have somebody there in your corner, no matter who it is. You should have somebody that you can go to and confide to and say, hey, man, I'm not doing well, and there's plenty of brethren out there that would listen, It's good for your mental health to have just a ear for you to talk into. And it helped me quite a bit, where not just the osmosis part of like me wanting to be better because other people are better, but they actually wanted to get to know me in a sense of like, who are you?
Yeah, they're not saying, taking advantage of you in any way.
Nobody is.
No,
Nobody's taking.
It's not like a
advantage of you.
multi-level marketing scheme where you just got to keep paying to rise up the ranks.
No, we're not doing stuff like that. No,
Nor is it a religion and a way of salvation, right? Because Masonry is not espoused to be a religion of any sort.
No.
But you see that in conspiracies. In a lot of churches actually attack Freemasonry. You're Catholic. I was Roman Catholic. And even in many different denominations other than Catholic, different sects of Christianity, you actually see this like pushback of you are a Christian and a Freemason. So what was that like?
I mean, for me, on a personal level, I never really met resistance in a sense.
Well, that's good.
Nobody that I've known, and like my whole Irving side is very Catholic.
Okay.
Nobody that I've really known has like pressed me on it. They've
Okay.
just kind of supported me in a sense. If people in my family didn't know, they didn't go like, oh yeah, this is bad, or you shouldn't be doing that. No, not in my family. It's more of a macro level of the Catholic faith not getting along with Freemasonry, and that's like where I've seen it the most, where there's been resistance. But on a personal level, I haven't really experienced that part. I've always had support.
That's
even if they don't know what it is. They just said, we want what's good, best for you, and if you feel that's best for you, then we're happy.
Did Masonry provide any support or a foundation to your own faith? What you believe in?
Yeah, I mean, it amplifies it.
You think it's because of the prayers at the beginning and the end of the lodge
Yeah,
and a lot of the symbolism?
a lot of symbolism. You can kind of articulate the two. You can bring them together. It,
Yeah.
there is no wrong answer. I mean, stuff that you learn in masonry, you can take with you into the church, you know,
You're 100%?
anywhere, 100%. I don't see it as two completely different things, and you got to be on one side.
Right. I wish more people thought like that.
I it's just the fact that people don't know. When you don't know, you fear it. You fear the unknown.
Yeah.
I mean that's the biggest gist of it. You know, it's not like there's any malintent. It's just I don't know what that is. I don't think it's good because I don't know.
Yeah, it's that negative
It's negativity's
yeah.
always first. You could be positive in 99% of your life, right? You have one bout of negativity and everybody points at that and says, "Why were you upset?" What about the 99% of time I was great? Why are we pinpointing something negative? That's just the way it is nowadays.
And it wears on you.
It does. It's like, so you're saying I have to be perfect. Why? When you already know inherently I can't be perfect. Nobody can.
Yeah.
There's temptations out there. There's decisions that we make that we thought were good that weren't at the time. When I was younger, I made decisions that I thought would help me that didn't.
Surrounding yourself with people who maybe
Yeah,
not had your best
surrounding
interest.
yourself, that with people that really didn't care about you. Period. Back then, it was more for personal gain, and it's the harsh reality of society nowadays. It's more of a personal gain.
Yeah, and for some reason, especially in the social media, when people are always not everybody's sending positive comments to your social media, right? They want to attack, they want to belittle you. I think it's
Yeah.
because they're hurting within themselves.
I feel like that's 100% the truth.
They want to take you down a peg.
Yes. People with lower self-esteem always want to feel better by attacking somebody else.
Exactly.
I was
or an
there.
institution or an institution,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, Lord knows we have our own channel. Mike Lou could talk about all the comments that we're getting in our episode on different platforms.
Yeah. 100%. It's just, the negativity and the people that have to act that way to bring you down to their level. It's a mechanism that makes them feel better about themselves. I've seen it. I did it when I was young, low self-esteem. I want to feel good, so I'm going to make you feel bad so I feel better.
Did you ever have to feel like you had to be somebody else and not your true self in the fraternity? The identity.
I didn't need to be an imposter.
Good.
Imposter syndrome. That really never came to mind too much. It was more of I want to be like them. I know I'm not. But if I can emulate somewhat of who they are, then I think I'm doing a great job. But you have to know in yourself that you're you and you're not somebody else. You're not. I don't claim to be you.
Right.
Yes, you were the one that introduced me, and yes, we followed each other's path for so long.
Yes, we did.
But I'm not you, and you're not me.
Right.
We're completely different people, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I hearken it to pillars. You know how there's so many different pillars of orders of architecture, and each one is its own unique pillar in the fraternity, and each one is that's the thing, right? Meeting so many different walks of life. You got jocks, you got nerds, you got military guys, you have more preppy guys, you have homosexuals, you have heterosexuals, you have people of all different races, you had people who started as custodial workers, you have people who are politicians, but we all gel.
Yeah, it literally doesn't matter.
What holds us together?
We all went through the same experience.
Yeah.
Hence the name brother.
Yeah.
It's like an actual biological brother or sister, right? We went through the same experience. We went through the same parents, the same upbringing, the same household. Segue that into the brotherhood. We all went through the ritual together. We all went through the degrees together, and we have something to fall back on and say, man, I did what you did. You might have done it 40 years ago, but I'm doing it now.
People like to say that, oh, somebody put a camera in a lodge and they saw this. I always say this on the podcast, until you go through those steps, you don't know one thing about Masonry.
No.
You really don't.
You have no clue. Well, I mean, even you're never going to know everything about Freemasonry in general. I've been in 10 years. And you think I know everything?
Oh, always a new branch.
I've read books. I always want to believe I know a lot, but at the end of the day, man, I don't know.
How would you
a lot.
How would you describe the lodge culture at Rubicon in 3 words?
Lodge culture at Rubicon: fun, family, foundational. So let's go 3 F's.
Fun, family, and foundational. Give an example.
Fun. Well, since I've been around and what we've built, and I'm sure it's still going on, we've built camaraderie. We built a culture that, it's not just everyone has their back, but we just make it fun, and that's what you need to do.
Welcoming.
Very, very welcoming, and that segues into the family part, right? The family part is everyone there should feel welcomed. You walk in and you should feel like, man, I do belong here. Because you do. 100% you do. And I feel like anybody that's on the cusp or, close to thinking about joining, it is a family. It 100% is a family. And going into the foundational part, it's more of a foundation for yourself, right? Like going back to our conversations prior in the podcast, it's building yourself, laying that foundation for your future, wherever you want to go or wherever it takes you. You have a basis and a foundation to go off of and make yourself better day to day to day. We'll never be perfect, but we can strive to be perfect.
And you've met a lot of different men. Have you seen imperfections in other men?
100%. There's always imperfections. I mean, I can't name somebody that's perfect.
Right. But how do you deal with adversity sometimes with a brother who, may have wronged you?
You just have to forgive.
Talk it out.
You hope you can talk it out. As brethren, you should be able to. You both took an obligation. And you should be able to talk things out and be like, you know what? Is it really worth all of that trouble? No. It's literally not worth all that trouble. For what reason?
I hold a grudge.
Never hold grudges, man.
Right.
If you want to go your separate way, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and stew in my chair at home and, really be upset about it. But, you hope that you just get past it.
And reconcile.
Reconcile, move forward. That's what it's about. We're brothers. We're not just 2 random people. There's a little bit more meaning to it. And I hope and wish that they would see the same thing as I would. That there's meaning behind being a brother. And it's not just, oh, yeah, a term that we use because that's not what it is. I can just meet a brother for the first time, and I feel like I've known him forever. And that's the way it should be. Like, I feel comfortable.
No matter how old they are,
Doesn't matter how old they are.
or what race they are.
Doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter at all. And it shouldn't matter.
Right. These are so many tenets that sometimes I see our society shifting back and forth on, right? How do you believe we should be examples out in the world so that the world can work on itself?
Just live the tenets of Freemasonry and be a just and upright person. I mean, it's as simplistic as that, in a sense of do right for yourself, so that way you can emulate that to other people and say, hey, you know what? That's what we should be doing. Instead of going down the path of negativity or selfishness or an individualistic nature where I only worry about me. Okay, but at the end of the day, if you're only worried about you, who's going to be there for you when you need them? And those are things that you got to think about when you really think about me, selfishness. We need to just be who we are and live by the tenets and teachings that we've gone through. Like you, me, anybody.
Have you met guys in the fraternity that were an example to conduct yourself and be above reproach in everything you do? I mean, you obviously have, but is there anybody that really, or men that have really stand out, and why did they stand out? Is there a situation? Two-part question.
I could name
so
many.
Who's the first?
Worshipful Brother Hoffman.
Worshipful Brother
John Hoffman.
Worshipful Brother John Hoffman was a Mason in our lodge. He came in a couple years after I did, and man was in his mid-40s and was just a trailblazer.
He was
in his lodge. I believe he's
sharp dresser too.
Yes,
yeah, very sharp.
Yes, I believe. I believe actually one of he's been mentioned in the past, but just as he was ascending and being that example of a leader, of a brother, because just like I would even correlate this, just like you before the fraternity didn't have that sense of direction, John was like that 20 or so years prior. He talked about that. He had shaggy hair, a tattoo, him and his wife, and they would be drinking and driving up on Sunset Boulevard. Like, he was a crazy man. He had crazy stories. He lived life. And then, while unfortunately I'll never be able to tell his story because cancer came out of nowhere just as he was really taking leadership in our regional area. It was a moment where we lost that brother right when that happened, because that happened so quick.
Oh, so fast.
I mean,
months.
What was
months? Felt like.
Yeah, it was 2. I think it was actually 5.
Was it 5? It just was so fast. It was like, wow.
Yeah, he was having problems with his bladder. Then next thing you know, they diagnosed after surgery, they opened him up, sewed him up because they said there was nothing he can do. He's hospitalized. Next thing you know, he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a pillar that just shattered.
For reference, I bring him up because he really was the guy there, especially when I started.
So what did he do that you would say influenced you?
The first words that he iterated to me after I did all my entered apprentice was, "We're not all rock stars, man, but always know that I'll always have your back." Yeah, I mean, that was like, I was almost in tears at that time. I'm like, I don't even know you, man. That's so cool.
But he had a sense of warmth about him.
He did. Oh yeah. His energy was unmatched. Unmatched. You know, you just wanted to emulate that in your way. You know, I jumped in the officer's line immediately because I was like, well, I want to be a part of this and I want to do a little bit more. You know, this is my redemption chance. And it's like, they need somebody. Okay, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be uncomfortable. Let's not lie about it. Be very uncomfortable because I've never done anything like that before, but I'm going to do it. I want to take the risk and like put myself in uncomfortable positions because it's going to help me. And I got to credit that to him. It's like, just go. We got your back. Just do it. I haven't looked back since that time. That's when I was an entered apprentice.
And now, almost 10 years in, as we've said several times, and you have been that example. Even during the times of adversity when the lodge, we didn't know what was going to happen in the pandemic. I've seen you grow from when we were kids in our 20s.
I mean, we were young. I was 23 when I joined,
and
when I was initiated. You
yeah,
know,
and now you just turned 34 and I'm 35.
Yeah,
literally a week ago.
And we're still babies.
Yeah,
fraternity age wise. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I totally get that. That he is a guy I've missed. And I thank you for what you do. Yes, you've had to take time from the lodge to work on your job. And you
Yeah.
know, you've been building a life. But I also want to talk about what was it like the night of that funeral. It was, remember, he was cremated and they had a celebration of life at the shrine.
Yep.
And it was like a big, you know, hall where they had several different bodies.
Yeah, I was warden for the funeral, if I remember.
So warden, for those of you that don't know, is like the vice president. It's like top 3. So there's a senior warden and there's a junior warden. Which warden were you?
Senior, because that would have been 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was senior warden for that.
Yeah. What's that like going into a celebration of life with the place packed with Masons?
Surreal. You know, you talk about 8 years prior to that, I would have never thought I'd be in that position for a guy that was 20 years older than me. I would have never have known, but I had a connection with him that, you know, it's hard to describe into words. Like,
we just can't take
really was hurt by it.
Yeah, we just can't take it for granted, right? These people who are around us.
You can't. Is anybody's could go at any point in time, right? This is how it is. We've seen brethren go left and right and center the last 10 years. Guys that we've gotten to know. You know, it is the reality of, you know, being so young and joining, that when you do grow and attach yourself to these guys, you're going to experience a lot of loss. But it's more of a happy thing in a sense of, it's not always doom and gloom because they made an impact on your life and you always cherish that forever. So you don't want to go away with it in a negative sense, even though it's sad at the time. Like you and I are talking about Hoffman, Worshipful Brother Hoffman, and that was almost 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
But see the impact that he had.
And
up into this day. And there's other brethren that have that same impact. You know,
right.
I still say Worshipful Brother Bob Freeze had an impact as well for me personally.
Yeah.
I talked to him quite a bit, a lot.
Yeah, he was a 50-year Mason,
Yeah.
and he was in his 80s, and he passed because of COPD, and he lived a life, and he was so
Yeah.
welcome.
You know, what would he have anything to do to talk to me?
Talk more about that. What do you mean when you say that?
Like ageism, right?
Sure.
That's another thing in our society that, it's one of those things we deem taboo in a sense. I'm not trying to like degrade it too much, but like people don't understand why you would be hanging out with somebody 60 years older than you or 50 or whatever, right? But you get to know their experiences and everything that they've gone through. They really want to pass that on to you. They do.
How impactful is to get that knowledge? Because that is the true wealth of Freemasonry.
It's 100% impactful. And even if it's just small talk, it's impactful. Just having a conversation, it makes you a better person. It makes you adept to any situation in life.
Yeah.
Where now you could talk to anybody and not have, you're not uncomfortable. Like 10 years ago, I would have been uncomfortable, very uncomfortable talking to anybody because I wasn't confident in myself at the time. Now let's fast forward. Now I can talk to anybody and I have no problems whatsoever. And it's because of these guys. We celebrate these guys' lives and how they've impacted guys like us. And they truly do make a difference. Even the guys that are still around, that are living, they need to know they make a difference in younger guys' lives too. It's not just you show up to lodge and you go home. Know that you make a difference. And whenever I go to lodge, I leave so happy. I do. Because these are guys that I've known for a long time. They're family, but also they're so excited to see you. They say they love you and everything, and like, them just being happy and put a smile on their face when you walk in the door. Maybe you haven't been around in a while. It's like, you're leaving your parents' nest and going to college and coming back, and they're embracing you. It's something along the lines of that, and you get that with Freemasonry. Family obviously is always going to be important, but having the other side of that, where you have more of a family and more of a network like that, where these guys care about you, you can take that forever and just know that you have people. And it doesn't matter who you are. Just, just be a good, just and upright person,
Thank you.
you know?
Listen, we're coming up to the end of this episode. There's somebody watching this who will be able to resonate with your story. I want to give you a scenario, okay? We talk about our working tools and the stone. If you could use the working tools and leave something, a message for those who can look and either be inspired or just some kind of wisdom that you would want to pass down, what would you write on that stone? I know.
That is pretty deep.
Because we all have to leave those for the future of our fraternity.
Yes. 'Cause
What
at the end of the day, we're not going to be here forever. I'm trying to think of something very
Just speak from the heart. You don't have to.
philosophical, but
No,
say
it's your words. It's not something that you've seen in the past. It's your word. What's a message? It could be as simple.
embrace the time that you have and enjoy the fellowship that you'll have. Whether it's in the fraternity or not, just embrace the time. Be happy. Because I don't know where we're going in society. I hope that we find a way to get back to the way things were even when we were younger, just enjoy the moment. As simple as that. Just enjoy the moment. Live the best way you possibly can and work hard.
I think that's well said. That's my brother, Richard Connor Irving. I'm R.L. Franks. You are all square. Thank you, Connor.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Hey, R.L. Franks here. Thanks again for watching today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you believe someone can benefit from the message that we provided on today's podcast, send it over to them. You may inspire them.